Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 400 of For Immediate Release. And if that sounds like a milestone, keep in mind that we started over from zero when the show went through some transformation, but we had produced 824 episodes before that. So this is actually episode number 1224. I'm Shel Holtz.
And I'm Neville Hobson. We've got an interesting story today. Let me introduce the topic here. I understand that PR is hard, writes TechCrunch enterprise editor Frederic Lardinois in a public LinkedIn post last week. But when you're making an announcement, or maybe dozens if you're having a major event, he says, you should be able to anticipate common questions and have answers ready to go. Or maybe just share embargoed press releases, blog posts, and FAQs that aren't extremely vague. I don't know what specifically prompted Frederic Lardinois to express his frustration on LinkedIn, but over 40 people have weighed in with their opinions so far. Clearly, he was unimpressed with the tech company and its communication leading up to an announcement. One of the first commenters to his post, Erin Grant, an executive VP at Sling & Stone, writes, "One thing here, I feel like press releases just need to go in the trash in general. I appreciate you even giving them a mention in your post, but from what I hear from journos like you hate reading them, and quite frankly, most PRs hate writing them or feel they don't do much. It feels like journos and PRs need to come together on a campaign and just say enough with the press releases and find better, more suitable formats together. FAQ or signal sheet with the basic hard details over these branded wordy blogs or releases. I know I'd love it." Frederick's response: "FAQs are great. 90% of what's in my stories is based on interviews, but especially for major events, it's not always possible to get a one-to-one." Rich Levin, Legal Marketing Communications VP at Axiom, writes, "Most content needs to go in the trash. I wouldn't single out PR. There are just as many bad blogs, articles, white papers, podcasts, videos, social posts, SEO spam, books, etc. as there are bad PRs. Ditto rock bands, comedians, photographers, illustrators, and so on. There's an overabundance of content, and it's increasingly becoming a race to the bottom. AI ain't helping." Wendy Agudelo, a recovering journalist, writer, and content creator, adds, "Nope, PR 101. All I can offer is a sincere, I'm sorry. Don't give up on us all, though." Therese Maloney, president and founder of Cogenta Communications, says, 100% agree. So many new founders have never done PR, and it's our job to guide them with best practices, not just to do as they say. I've heard some reporters ask for a press release because it provides general background on news, and it's our job to make sure it spells out what the company does and why it matters. It's also our job to help them anticipate questions in advance, assemble into an FAQ, and help the team practice delivery. If messages are vague, it's our job to push harder for a message that's more precise. And who wouldn't offer an interview for more detail? You're right, PR can have its challenges, but it's our job to make sure a company is ready for prime time out of the gate. Not sure what you're referring to, but it sounds like a lazy hack who wasn't doing their job well. Isabel Dumont, CMO at Denexus, weighs in. "Press releases are by nature templatized and sanitized," she says. "The real story comes out when you talk to people, the founders, the engineers who have to grind through hard problems, the customer service teams who get to work with the customers. Tech companies should open their kimonos to get the authentic stories out, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Done right, you can be a better hero if this is your goal." Drew Olenoff, Dot Connector and Storyteller, notes, "That's when you find out just how important a bit of news is. If there's no real effort to communicate all of the bits and pieces, it's clear. No effort from the company comms, no effort from you." We have little detail to go on, as some commenters have noted, but most in the thread appear to weigh in heavily on the woeful preparation by the PRs. At the heart of Frederick's frustration is what he says. When you're making an announcement, or maybe dozens if you're having a major event, you should be able to anticipate common questions and have answers ready to go. Or maybe you just share embargoed press releases, blog posts, and FAQs that aren't extremely vague. If none of that happened for Frederick, then it all strikes me as indicative of a severe lack of professionalism and, dare I say it, a woeful lack of interest and even basic PR 101 skills. Shel, how does it look to you?
There is so much to talk about here. First of all, I have to agree that there is a torrent of bad press releases flooding the market these days. And it goes back to an issue that I have raised over and over and over again, and that is the fact that anybody can hang out a shingle and say, I am a PR professional, and use the template to turn out a worthless press release for reasons that escape me. I'm sure they think they have a reason. And that probably represents the bulk of the press releases that most people are reading. So that's an issue in and of itself. You also have people coming out of school who really have not been well prepared to work in public relations, and they think that putting out a press release is a core part of the job and spend a lot of time at it without thinking through how it fits into a broader initiative, a broader effort. When I have a press release go out where I work, first of all, we know the reporters that we want to reach out to after it's gone out, saying, don't know if you've seen this, but, and then personalize that pitch based on the relationship we have with that journalist and the things that we know that they write about, what their interests are, so that we can appeal to them. The thing to remember about a press release is that it's not supposed to be the article. It's supposed to entice a reporter to want to do an article. And you can't do that with something that is, as that one commenter said, templatized. You have to be creative. You have to whet their appetite, but not give away everything. You want to make them reach out and say, I think this might be a story I want to tell. What else can you tell me? I have questions. And you need to know what those questions are going to be and be prepared to answer them. I mean, there are times that press releases are part of a larger press kit that include an FAQ and bios and backgrounders and photos and other visual assets that reporters can use. But wait, there's more. The other use of a press release is SEO related, and that is because when you issue a press release, it is automatically going to find its way into possibly hundreds of websites. Yahoo Finance will post a press release within seconds of receiving it, and suddenly your company name rises to the top. And if you've got a press release that's worth reading, people will link to it. We issued a press release not that long ago about a project. For those who are maybe new listeners or have forgotten, I work for a construction company. We build big commercial projects, and we had built a 3-building facility out in Burlingame, California. These are for life science research. They're labs, but there's also offices and cafeterias and meeting rooms and gyms and things like that. And it was the first project anywhere in the world to get certified with a true certification. That's a zero waste certification. Waste in the construction industry is among the highest in any industry there is, and we diverted 97% of the waste on that project away from landfills and incinerators. That's noteworthy. Yes, there are other ways to get the word out, and we did, but we wanted to get the press release out for people who are maybe just searching. And again, in order to entice reporters who were then going to reach out to individually with a link to the press release and say, don't know if you saw this. We think you'd want to report on this because A, B, and C related to what we know about that reporter. So done well, press releases have value if you know why you're doing it, if you know where it fits into the broader communication effort, and if you know who you want to reach with it. But to suggest that press releases are bad and we need to do away with them and find an alternative sounds very formulaic and prescriptive to me. There is an infrastructure for press release distribution. It can reach the right people, and I think they just need to be done well. How we get everybody to do that, I don't know.
Yeah,
more podcast episodes like this, I suppose.
It's possible, yes, to stimulate some discussion. I did get the impression reading the comments in Frederick's post on LinkedIn, and indeed the ones I've quoted were a very good example, a cross-section example of different perspectives kind of circling around a common theme. And they're very good. But I got a feeling that most people are, as you noted, kind of banging on about press releases as a bad thing, and they're not. Yet, I have to say, in the context we saw them being not used, then that was a valid criticism, it seems to me, because you mentioned when press releases are done right, things go very well indeed. I would add to that by saying when they're done right, in the right place at the right time. So, for instance, if you have an event such as the one Frederick talks about, without any details, so we don't know the scale of it or whether it was a kind of a very famous company, well regarded, that would have definitely attracted interest, or what it was, we don't know. Suggesting in a sense that all they had at that event was a press release. Well, that's probably the worst way to use the press release, frankly, given that it's intended primarily for distribution to the press in the original days. But that's what you give to people physically attending your event. Here you go. There's the information you need to know. Why would they bother to come even? You do other things in that context. And as Frederick noted, he ran through quite a few of them, FAQs and so forth and so on. He mentioned something I think is a big clue for people reading his posts. 90% of what's in my stories is based on interviews, he says. So one-to-one discussion with people. Now, the output of that ain't going to be in the press release, as another commenter noted, which you quoted, formulaic, and they're prepared well in advance, and they're massaged and certainly not objective by any means. Of course they're not. They're not pretending to be anything other than that. It's a one perspective point of view, and that's the story we tell, which, by the way, is rather telling, because I don't think many people actually publish press releases except Yahoo and a few other sites that simply publish press releases. So you've got an opportunity in that human connection in an event to really, really get your story across to people who showed up there. And they clearly didn't do that, which I guess is really what is at the heart of Frederick's frustration.
Yeah, with an event like that, you would want to work hard to set up interviews with reporters
Right.
in advance, right? So that they know that at 2:00 on Thursday, you're going to meet with our senior VP of whatever.
Right.
And I agree that you're going to get the best information from interviews. But again, this project that I mentioned where we issued the press release when we earned the True certification, it was also the first project in the entire world to get pre-certified for True, which meant that you are well prepared and positioned to get the True certification. And there are steps that you have to go through with the organization behind this. And we issued that press release about the pre-certification because it's a world first and you want people to know. And in our outreach to the reporters in the trade press and some of the mainstream media that we reached out to, we said, and we have the project director and the senior project engineer who is responsible for the day-to-day activities around earning this True certification available for interviews along with our sustainability director. And we had put the project director and the senior project engineer through media training before this so that they would be prepared to talk to the press. So, I mean, again, the press release is designed to whet the appetite, and you've also done the groundwork to leverage the press release to do some of the heavy lifting that's required in order to get somebody to do the interview, to talk to somebody and get the really juicy information that finds its way into the article.
Yeah, I think then Frederick's article is illustrative of all of that. And indeed, the commenters too highlight this fact, which is the groundwork, the preparation, the understanding of your audience who are going to show up on the day, the pre-work you've done. It all sets the scene in a sense for the fact that you've got a well-oiled machine in your PR department who know exactly what needs to be done and have done, and truly understand the basic 101 about public relations and event management and engaging with desired audiences to get your story out, but also to hear their comments too. This is a two-way thing. So this could well be a very useful example, an illustration that Frederick Ladinois has highlighted of the good, the bad, and the ugly, the mixture. Here, we got it all here, really. The blame of press releases are useless. The fact that the event certainly didn't impress Frederick at all, and he's an influential journalist. So does it mean that he'd ignore them next time, or isn't going to be so open to writing about them in TechCrunch in the future? We don't know any of those things. Are speculation. But these are all elements that you could literally pro and con column for the outcome of all of this. Some of the comments are well-meaning. In fact, all of them, I'm sure. There's no snarkiness in there that I noticed. They're well-meaning. But I think there's another story to tell there, which is the reality that press releases get a bad press, don't they? When things like this happen, it's all the press release. We need to ditch those things. So maybe there's some learning here for everyone. But I guess circling around to, if you had to pick one group of folks to kind of point the finger at and say, you could have done better, I believe it would have been the PR folks.
Yeah, I think it would have been the clients who need to be educated on what it is they want. I think a lot of clients think they know what they want, but they have not really studied PR or promotion or reputation to the extent that they really understand it well enough. I remember I interviewed for some client work when I was an independent consultant, and all they wanted was to get an article on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. And I was looking at what their business objectives were and the line of work they were in. And I was saying, that would be very ego gratifying, but I don't think it's going to get you where you want to go. You really want to do A, B, and C. And they said, no, we just want to be on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Yeah. I think there are probably clients out there who think that getting a press release out is the be all and end all of public relations. And that's what they expect someone to do. Or even worse, they don't even have that much in mind. They hire somebody to do PR who says, yeah, we'll do press releases. And the client goes, awesome. So I think clients, they know what they want with the people who are going to be doing the core work, coders for tech companies, for example, designers in certain industries, whatever it might be, attorneys, accountants, you name it, they know what they're looking for. They don't know what they're looking for in public relations, and therefore you end up with this crap flooding the market. And I agree. I think most press releases suck. And it's because there are clients who are happy with that. There are plenty of PR people who are more than happy to crank out this crap. And there is an infrastructure out there that enables them to send out all this crap, decisions and PR newswires and they're the same thing now, but all these different press release distribution services that make it easy. So I don't know that it's going to get better anytime soon, but I think we know what it would take for it to improve.
Yeah, I agree. So some learning here, everyone, and we're happy to have showcased this to you. And thanks to Frederick Ladenoir for writing the article that prompted this discussion. And I guess my final word would be, PR colleagues, listen up here. You've got to get a handle on this kind of thing. You can't afford to have this outcome and all these accusations flying and blaming press releases, which is your domain. So you need to be sure you don't do this.
One more point to make about a press release is that it can be the official statement of record for the organization. I mean, even in court cases, when somebody says, you never said you did this, you can say, look, we issued this press release. And that is our official single source of truth about this activity. That's another thing to keep in mind about the value of a press release.
Yeah, that makes complete and utter sense, Shel. That statement of record is an additional significant function of the press release. So it's good to point that out.
And that'll be a 30 for this episode of For Immediate Release.